Poland just became the most heavily armed airspace in Europe, not with stealth fighters, not with drones, with something that costs $15 million more than the world's most advanced stealth jet. The F-15EX Eagle II, arriving at Powidz Air Base, carries 29,500 pounds of weapons. That's heavier than an entire F-16 fighter. But the real shock isn't the payload. It's what the Pentagon discovered when they ran the numbers on survivability in contested airspace. The results changed everything about NATO's Eastern Defense strategy. The F-15EX Eagle II landing at Powidz cost $97 million per aircraft. The stealth F-35A Lightning II costs $82.5 million. The Air Force is deliberately paying $15 million more for a fighter without stealth capabilities. This isn't a procurement failure. It's the fundamental characteristic of extreme specialization. The twin F110-129 engines drive up the cost. Each engine generates enough thrust to push the aircraft past Mach 2.5 while carrying maximum payload. The F-35 uses a single engine. Twin engines mean double the complexity, double the fuel systems, double the maintenance infrastructure. But they also mean the Eagle can fly missions the F-35 physically cannot attempt. Boeing builds fewer F-15EX aircraft than Lockheed produces F-35s. Lower production volumes prevent economies of scale. The Air Force accepted this. They needed specific capabilities that justified the premium. The procurement data from Lot 3 shows the price climbing from $90 million to $97 million. The Pentagon approved the increase without hesitation. The airframe itself explains part of the cost. Engineers designed the F-15EX structure to withstand 20,000 flight hours. The F-35 airframe lasts 8,000 hours. One Eagle outlasts 2.5 Lightning IIs. The substantial reinforcement required for this longevity drives manufacturing costs higher, but it transforms the economics over decades of service. 310 miles. That's the range of Iskander missiles stationed in Russia's Kaliningrad Oblast. From launch positions there, these weapons can strike Warsaw, Gdansk, and most of northeastern Poland. The Russian Baltic Fleet calls Kaliningrad home. Military planners describe it as Moscow's unsinkable aircraft carrier in the Baltic Sea. Powidz Air Base sits at the precise intersection of this threat envelope and NATO's logistics backbone. The base houses 650,000 square feet of climate-controlled warehouses. Inside, the U.S. Army maintains complete equipment sets for an armored brigade combat team. Tanks, artillery, armored vehicles, everything needed to equip thousands of troops arriving from the United States. The F-15EX deployment transforms this vulnerability into deterrence. Each Eagle can deliver ordnance at ranges exceeding what Kaliningrad's defenses can intercept. The aircraft's essential capability isn't stealth, it's the ability to launch standoff weapons from beyond the engagement envelope of Russian air defenses. The geography matters. From Powidz, F-15EX fighters can reach the Baltic Sea in minutes. They can escort transport aircraft bringing reinforcements. They can strike naval targets attempting to blockade Baltic ports. The primary function of these Eagles is protecting NATO's ability to reinforce Poland in a crisis. The AN/ALQ 250 Eagle passive-active warning and survivability system costs over $10 million per aircraft. EPAWSS represents the crucial innovation that makes a non-stealth fighter survivable in modern combat. The system doesn't hide the aircraft. It blinds enemy radars through active electronic attack. BAE Systems engineered EPAWSS to execute multiple jamming operations simultaneously without interfering with the Eagle's own radar. The geolocation capability maps enemy air defense networks in real time. This intrinsic feature transforms the F-15EX from a weapons carrier into an electronic warfare platform. The Legion pod adds another layer. The AN/ASG-34 infrared search and track sensor detects aircraft by their heat signatures. No radar emissions. Complete electromagnetic silence. Against stealth aircraft that minimize radar returns, heat detection becomes the necessary countermeasure. Test data from recent exercises demonstrates EPAWSS effectiveness. F-15EX aircraft penetrated simulated S-400 coverage while maintaining offensive capability. The electronic protection doesn't match stealth invisibility, but it achieves sufficient survivability through active suppression rather than passive signature reduction. March 2024 marked the final test of the AGM-183 air-launched rapid response weapon. The missile accelerated past Mach 5, traveled over 1,000 miles, and struck its target. Then, the Air Force canceled the program. 3 months later, in June 2025, Air Force Chief of Staff General David Alvin reversed the decision. The fiscal year 2026 budget will include ARRW funding. The F-15EX is the only tactical fighter structurally rated to carry ARRW. The hypersonic weapon weighs too much for internal carriage on the F-35. The F-22 lacks the hard points. The fundamental requirement for hypersonic deployment is raw lifting capacity combined with high-altitude performance. From Powidz, an F-15EX carrying ARRW can strike targets across the entire Baltic region in minutes. The boost glide weapon reaches hypersonic speeds after launch, making interception nearly impossible with current technology. The substantial advantage isn't just speed, it's the compression of decision timelines for adversary command structures. Lockheed Martin designed ARRW for what the Air Force calls larger form factor strategic long-range missions. The Eagle provides the necessary platform characteristics, sufficient electrical power generation, structural strength for the heavy missile, and the altitude capability for optimal launch parameters. The F-15EX retains something most modern fighters eliminated: a second seat. The weapons systems officer position isn't nostalgia. It's the primary interface for controlling collaborative combat aircraft, autonomous wingmen that will transform air combat. The Air Force plans to acquire 200 manned 6th-generation fighters. They'll buy over 1,000 CC as to support them. The math is deliberate. Each manned platform will direct between 2 and 5 autonomous aircraft. The F-15EX serves as the transitional platform to develop this capability. The Advanced Display Core Processor 2 provides the computational foundation. A DCP-2 runs the mission computer with open architecture software. New autonomy packages integrate without hardware modifications. The inherent flexibility allows the Eagle to evolve as artificial intelligence capabilities mature. Boeing engineers designed the F-15EX cockpit for this specific role. The pilot flies the aircraft. The WSO manages the autonomous swarm. In exercises, single F-15EX crews successfully coordinated multiple simulated CCs while executing their own combat missions. The two-seat configuration becomes essential when human decision-making must supervise artificial intelligence in combat. Powidz represents more than an airbase. The Enhanced Air Policing Mission Stations, F-15S, where they can respond to Russian aircraft approaching Polish airspace within minutes. But the strategic value runs deeper than interception. Every aviation detachment rotation brings American maintainers, weapons specialists, and support personnel. They train Polish ground crews on advanced systems. They establish supply chains for spare parts. They create the infrastructure for sustained operations rather than temporary deployments. The Army prepositioned stocks at Powidz hold enough equipment for 3,000 soldiers. The F-15EX provides the protective umbrella for this arsenal. Without air cover, the warehouses become targets. With Eagle protection, they guarantee rapid reinforcement capability that fundamentally alters the regional military balance. Poland invested billions in base improvements to host these deployments. New hangars, upgraded runways, advanced fuel systems, infrastructure that signals permanent commitment rather than rotational presence. The transformation from occasional exercises to persistent capability changes how Moscow must calculate risk. The $97 million price tag tells the real story. The Air Force isn't buying a fighter jet. They're buying a capability set that no other platform provides. 20,000 flight hours of service life, 29,500 pounds of payload, Mach 2.5 speed with full weapons load, electronic warfare systems that achieve survivability through suppression rather than hiding. The capacity to launch hypersonic weapons that compress enemy decision cycles to minutes. A command platform for the 1,000 autonomous aircraft that will define future combat. Take a moment to process what's coming. If you want to stay informed about the technologies reshaping our world, subscribe and like this video. The future arrives faster than you think. The F-15EX deployment to Poland demonstrates that deterrence requires visible capability, not just advanced technology. Sometimes the most expensive option delivers exactly what strategy demands. At Powidz Air Base, that means an aircraft that costs more than stealth fighters, carries more than bombers, and bridges the gap between today's Air Force and tomorrow's autonomous swarms. The Eagle's arrival on NATO's eastern flank sends a message measured not in dollars, but in tons of ordnance and decades of commitment.